The stars step out with MC Red Robinson leading the way, all to benefit the Zajac Ranch for Special Needs Children. For tickets, call 604-739-0444 or 604-629-8849. December 5th at the Arts Club Greville Island.
Vancouver's ultimate variety. Virgin Radio 953. Virgin Radio, Vancouver.
Tonight on Pia.
Race is really an interesting thing when you're a kid. I was called names.
The one thing I probably get from in Canada is being asked 100 times, where were you born?
As soon as you cross that border, there is an easing of the tension.
But when cultures come together in a city, sometimes they clash.
The more we know about another culture, the better prepared we are to live a happier life.
Now this is going to be fun. The first recorded Black person to come to Canada was Matthew DaCosta, interpreter to the governor at Port Royal. He was also a member of Canada's oldest private club, the Order of Good Cheer. The year was 1605. Though Blacks have never exceeded 2% of the population of Canada, they have been an important part of the Canadian experience since that time. But there's another side. My friend Leon Bibb, who's 88 now and still performing live, feels compelled to bear witness for the next generation to what was known as the Atlantic slave trade. Leon talks about the Middle Passage.
I would hope that most of my friends and people generally would have known something about the Middle Passage because it has all to do with I'm here. 1.5 million slaves, and a friend of mine pointed out, they are enslaved. They are not slaves. They were enslaved peoples, were boarded onto these ships and brought to North America. Now, in the course of that trip, there was a 3 to 4 month trip. They were below deck in areas that just the width of the body and often not as tall as a lot of the taller people were, tiered, brought food once a day, brought up on deck once a week to dance around to keep the blood circulating for 3 months. This is the way they lived. What we don't know about the spirit and how it's damaged, we don't know anything about those things. And how they survived, and many of them didn't. When they would be brought up on deck to jump around, many of them decided to end it right then, and they jumped overboard. Here are tribes of people who have tradition, they've shared tradition, they don't share a language, and they come to a country, they have no language. They are taught, well, I always call it they're taught biblically, because the owners, in their effort to quell any riots or any uprisings, taught them all of the scriptures.
Leon Bibb has a magnificent singing voice, and he has many times brought a theater crowd to its feet with his stirring renditions of Negro spirituals. These songs arose from the situation of the slaves and were like a secret language amongst them. Leon explains more.
These people, and a tradition that they had lived with all of their lives, all of the tribes had shared this one tradition. They developed a spiritual. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home. That's called call and answer. There's 3 lines and an answer. That tradition, you will find evidence of it even to today in other forms of music, but still you will find it in the earliest spirituals that were sung. They weren't written. There was no piano. There was no way to transcribe. It was memorized note by note, and that's how the songs were developed. They could hum, and if someone saw them or heard them do it and slapped them or whatever to stop the singing, because there again, they recognized, the slave owners recognized that anything that they would do to quell any chance of revolution or uprising, they would do it. They would congregate in secret places on the plantation as often as they could. And this is how so much of the music was developed.
We're focusing on 4 unique stories about being Black in Canada. Dennis Simpson was a 6-year-old boy when he came to Toronto with his mother from Jamaica. Blue Man Kuma was fleeing the Vietnam draft when he came from Bellingham to Vancouver. Leon Bibb was a fully fledged Broadway star when he decided to branch out into a new market, Canada. And Don Stewart, well, he's 5th generation Canadian.
My father had 5 children with my mother, and then my mother passed away when I was 8.
I grew up in Amherstburg, Ontario, which is 17 miles south of Windsor.
My father married another lady, and he had 4 children with her. 4. And this lady was white.
Small little community. It was a town. Now it's a city because everybody from Windsor is moving to Amherstburg. Anyways, I'm 33% Black at that time.
8 years old, that's when I arrived in Toronto. And Toronto, Montreal, and New York were the meccas. My mother chose Toronto because she didn't want to learn French.
A lot of Black, a lot of white. And we went to school together and we played and everything together. But, you know, like every community, there's always, in the areas, there's always these little groups that, I guess, fascists.
Having grown up in Louisville, Kentucky, and having seen my father move my head aside, we were coming home from church one Sunday, and I saw a man hanging. My father, as I said, moved my head away.
If I'd stayed in Jamaica, I could have been a rude boy, you know. Could have been a really bad rude. What you looking at? Bam!
I recognized that the evil that is in a society can happen.
And there was, on my father's church near Go Home, there was cross burnings in downtown.
I saw Black fountains and toilets and entrances to stores.
A place called Drag City, which was a place where they used to bring slot cars and you could race them. It had a sign in there, no Blacks allowed. I mean, I grew up with that kind of thing.
Scarborough, Ontario, in the 60s, I was the only Black kid in my high school.
School was school. And all the people that you hung around with and played basketball and track and everything like that.
That adds a whole different dynamic to one's psyche. It was the flavor of the month, the week. I was fashionable, but I felt kept at a distance for a while.
My first girlfriend, a white lady who I loved to pieces. I loved her. But her mother, oh man, I would call on the phone. Now I got these pipes. Hello, is Joanne there, please? She said, yeah, just a minute. Joanne, that sex maniac's on the phone.
I don't wear it with a chip on my shoulder about it. But race is really an interesting thing when you're a kid. I was called names.
The thing was, you had to, defend yourself at that particular level.
The N-word, of course. Oh, Henry Bar.
The next thing, your sister or your mother or something like that. So you always had to make sure that that wasn't happening.
It was a minefield. My way of getting through it was make them laugh, distract them with laughter.
Ours was an enclosed community, and there was no contact with white people.
Vancouver's ultimate variety. Virgin. Virgin Radio 953. Virgin Radio, Vancouver.
Community College since 1903.
The stars step out with MC Red Robinson leading the way, all to benefit the Zajac Ranch for special needs children. For tickets, call 604-739-0444 or 604-629-8849. December 5th at the Arts Club Granville Island. Whether marching for civil rights in Alabama, fleeing the Vietnam draft, or just being the only kid in your school who's black, there is one thing that unites us all. We're all Canadians.
I was already quite political. I was very political, to tell you the truth. You had the civil rights movement going down at that time, and we formed the Black Students Union. We used to go on the anti-war marches, and we had many rallies. We were into raising consciousness, and I grew a big afro, and it was great times, good times.
I didn't meet Dr. King. I was in a whole group of people who met and spoke, some of whom spoke to him. But I did march.
There came a time when I had to deal with the question of whether or not I was going to go to Vietnam. Now, I had already long ago decided that I wasn't going to go. But what I thought I was going to do was go to jail. Next thing I knew, I got the draft notice, and I was supposed to report January 1st. I thought January 2nd there would be somebody, So I went to my classes, and I came home, and I was looking for the green, brown car. I didn't see anything, and I was okay, I got one more day.
If I'd gone to New York, I would have been the perfect age for the Vietnam War. We'll do the math later on. I thought of that, and I thought, oh my God, my life, or lack of it, would have been different.
A friend of mine said, do you know what can happen here? Listen, let me just straighten you out here. You're going to go to jail. Do you know you can go to jail, do that whole thing, get out of jail, and they can draft your ass again? And I went, oh. That was it. Canada, here I come. Fighting for something you do not believe in. You don't believe in. And being treated like second-class citizens, and that's the real fight for us.
Singer Don Stewart is fifth-generation Canadian. He hails from Amherstburg, a very strong black community, which was a stop on the Underground Railroad, the way by which fugitive slaves were brought into Canada. His father was reverend for 4 black churches, and his mother a missionary to all the smaller black communities throughout Ontario.
Detroit, was a big influence on a lot of different things that was going on in the Windsor, Amherstburg area. The riots were going on. They had there's a lot of prejudice, and it drifted down this way.
A lot of people haven't been to, a lot of people from the West have not been out east, and they don't know about the black communities in Toronto and Montreal and so forth.
My uncle played for the Black Negro League and all that stuff. Like, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of history. The Underground Railroad was right there, right? They actually came through there and up to Chatham.
Where's the black community when they come to Vancouver? Because there isn't an identifiable area as there are in most big cities, But what is wonderful about this situation is the reason there are a lot of black people that live here. A lot. I mean, from every community in the world, a lot of them. But the difference is that here, you can live wherever you want to live. And we do.
I go to New York to visit family, and to see black people just walking around is like, I don't have to excuse myself for being who I am.
If you go to the Jamaican picnic, now you'll see the brothers and sisters coming out of the woodwork, because that's what we do, But as far as an identifiable one gathering place that you can call the black community, it doesn't exist here in Vancouver. It does in the East.
The one thing I probably get from in Canada is being asked 100 times, where were you born? And in Amherstburg, no, where were you born? And Amherstburg, Ontario, no, where were you born? 5 times, I mean, because, like you said, people don't realize that a lot of black people are born in Canada.
What is evident to all black folks that cross the border that are from down there is as soon as you cross that border, there is an easing of the tension. I said it before in the speech I was doing. You relax. You come back, and you didn't even know you were holding the tension so much in your being. You didn't know, because it took the relaxation to realize that you'd been walking around like this. I had no idea.
And now it's time for our resident commentator, the multicultural Patrick Maliha.
Growing up black in Northern Ontario, I of course experienced my share of racism. Now, of course, I didn't grow up as a black man in Northern Ontario, but I did experience racism. The fact that racism is still an extremely touchy subject in and of itself is very sad. I was the son of immigrants, I had an ethnic name, and Lord knows I was made to feel different. As soon as I introduced myself, I said, "I'm different than you." I didn't even realize I was experiencing racism, though, because I thought that's just the way things are. This is the way life is supposed to be. Racial slurs would fly about, and they would be like, "Nah, man, we're just joking around. We were buddies. This is the way things are." And so you learn to accept it. Best example was when I first moved to Vancouver, I applied to close to 20 places for a job. I used my ethnic name, my old name, if you will, my birth name. I didn't receive one response from any of those places I had applied to. A few months later, when I went by my middle name of Patrick, I applied to the same places. And lo and behold, almost every single place called me in for a job interview. Racism? Or maybe they had just lost the original resume. I don't know. But I do know this. The only time when we will truly eliminate racism is when we choose not to even call somebody African American, Afro-Canadian, Asian Canadian. It's when we start calling ourselves Canadian and American. And we can take pride in it, and we see nothing wrong with that. And like I said before, the fact that in this day and age, we're still discussing racism, and it's still an uncomfortable subject to discuss, is both sad and laughable. Until next time, I'm Patrick Maliha, and this is the Maliha Minute.
Pia would really like to know how you feel about the show. Please email us your comments at pia@thepiashow.com.
The stars step out with MC Red Robinson leading the way, all to benefit the Zajac Ranch for Special Needs Children. For tickets, call 604-739-0444 or 604-629-8849. December 5th at the Arts Club Greville Island.
Vancouver's ultimate variety. Virgin. Radio 953. Virgin Radio, Vancouver.
There aren't many places on the planet, I think, in my opinion, that have the amount of obvious, in-your-face racism as the good old U.S.
The first conversation I had with a white person, I was 19 years old.
I was like 14 or something, and I was hanging with a friend of mine. I don't even remember his name, but he was a white kid. And we were at an Albertsons. And one of the guys that was working there was talking to my friend, and he asked him how old he was. And I think my friend said 14, something like that, 14 or 15. And he said, you might be able to get a job here as one of the checker boys, one of the guys that helps people take their groceries to the car and that sort of thing, And my friend said, wow, that'd be great. And I said, wow, 50, maybe I could get one too, huh? He said, the guy looked straight at me and said, can you? I don't know this guy, I don't know, but I do remember that, and I always remember that.
I learned about anti-Semitism from my first teacher in New York, a well-known German singer, opera singer, but she was anti-Semitic.
It's a little shimmering at the edge. I mean, I don't walk around looking for it, and really, most of the time, people are very, very engaging. But all it takes sometimes is the one person to just make you go, oh my God, what, I smell? What is it?
Growing up in Louisville, anti-Semitism wasn't a thing that I knew anything about. And they said that remark was anti-Semitic, Leon. And they explained to me, and I obviously then understood. I didn't go back to her. But all of these incidents, some of them have not been positive. There have been some negative ones, and I think one learns from positive and negative.
We were celebrating, and I kind of had my arm around her like this, and some guy from the town, some drunk, he stood up and said, "You get your hands off that woman."
I'd rather somebody just, as much as it would hurt, tell me what they thought of me on whatever level, than whisper. I've heard the whispers. I have seen the looks. I've misread the looks, maybe. I've projected the looks. I've actually seen people. I mean, nobody needs that. Whether you're black, you're fat, you're gay, but you have one leg, it doesn't matter.
I went to go like this, I didn't even get out of the chair. Man, they came from there, they came from there. Not just the crew, people from the town. They were on that cat like ninjas, man. I'm talking about now. It was over, get your ass out. They had no parts of that, man. And that was wonderful. But that's Canada to me.
I was getting on the train, and two ladies were getting off the train, and they looked at me and did this to me.
What?
And for the life of me, I thought, I really did. I thought, what? I didn't expel any gaseous wastes. I had no idea why. They could have been cleaning my aura for all I know. Maybe they were shea women. I had no idea. But when cultures come together in a city, sometimes they clash. And the thing is not to take everything personally. And there's a part of me from being a kid that still is reactive.
It was called Hooked on Books, and I traveled through BC. So you get ready to perform the show, and all the little kids would walk by. are you Michael Jordan? So,
There's something about manners. Whatever happened to manners? You don't whisper about people and point. You just don't do that. And if you have some qualm with somebody, if you think it's your business to confront them. Give them the opportunity to stand up for themselves.
One teacher said no. He's a black man, but he's not Michael Jordan. Only one. Everybody else was like kind of embarrassed for me, but I wasn't embarrassed. The kids are cute, and they are just, they're just asking a question. Only once.
And people say, well, Dennis, when we look at you, when we talk with you, we don't think of a black person. Well, when I look in the mirror, I see a black person. It's a fact.
I look like him, kind of, from a distance, from if you're 5 years old, 6 years old.
My sister Gloria, who's a soulmate, as well as my sister, she said, okay, you're turning a certain age now. It's time to drop some of that other stuff. My sister's mentoring me, my baby sister. When did that happen? And, in a way, she's right. Some of that behavior has held me in good stead over the years, but in a way, it's not as appropriate anymore. I've outgrown it.
Today, it's a whole different dynamic today, things have progressed, perhaps due to hip-hop or whatever, but it's a whole different world now, completely, from what I used to see as a kid,
The more we know about another culture, the better prepared we are to live a happier life.
My boys actually went to Holland for a little while and learned to speak Dutch, and they went to school, and and I really like that. I always want them to keep up that part of their heritage, and they do. The World Cup, they were, Holland.
I don't want to be on a bandwagon saying, oh yes, we have made progress. Obviously, here I am. I'm a product like a lot of my friends have made progress, but I would like to think that my friends who represent all cultures, we have moved ourselves together, and there is the measurement for the growth that might have taken place from the time I grew up in a segregated community in Louisville to now.
I would like to dedicate this episode of The Pia Show to the late Dennis Simpson. As you saw him, he was sweet, funny, intelligent, and sensitive. Dennis passed on October 22nd, 2010, just as we were working on this show. It was a great privilege to be able to talk in depth with him, and it is an honor to dedicate this episode to Dennis Simpson. Of course, we'd also like to thank Leon Bibb, Blue Man Kuma, and Dawn Stewart for sharing their experiences of being Black in Canada. And thanks to you for watching us. I'm Pia Shandel.
My great-uncle Lenny, in his wise Jamaican way, said, don't worry about worry. Stop worrying about worry. All you can do is be here now. End of story. What a gift this is. It really is. I'm getting goosebumps. It really is to have a conversation like this, because I don't get to talk like this often.
Vancouver's ultimate variety. Virgin Radio 953. Virgin Radio, Vancouver.
Community College since 1903.
The stars step out with MC Red Robinson leading the way, all to benefit the Zajac Ranch for Special Needs Children. For tickets, call 604-739-0444 or 604-629-8849. December 5th at the Arts Club Granville Island.